The day has finally come. It has happened. Those are words that Steeler fans maybe have been hoping for a few years, and most probably thought would never come. But yet, as the dust settles from another early exit for the Pittsburgh Steelers, they won the division, they had a winning season, they lose right away, and in blowout fashion, historic blowout fashion, Mike Tomlin doesn't wait a few days, doesn't drink it in, doesn't think it over, doesn't wait a week or so. Nope. The next day, in the middle of that next day, steps down as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, ending his tenure after 19 years at the helm. 19 years, unprecedented in general, but especially in this era. We will see a new head coach in Baltimore and in Pittsburgh in the same year, as John Harbaugh was fired after losing to Tomlin in the de facto AFC North championship game to end the regular season. A win for the Steelers, getting lucky off a missed field goal, but a win for the Steelers to get another division title for Tomlin, but not nearly be competitive again in a postseason defeat to the Houston Texans, who brought the house defensively. They dominated. The Steelers offense never got going. The Steelers defense had, moments with turnovers, but not enough. And Tomlin doesn't really have a signature bad call in that game, but it didn't matter. They were out of it with plenty left in the fourth quarter. And I'm here to talk about it. I don't have a guest for this one. This is kind of off the cuff. I definitely thought this could happen at some point. I thought it was a higher than zero chance this year with all the noise that maybe this would be the year that it would occur. Obviously, there's been a lot of reporting and a lot of chatter on Mike Tomlin this year. Fans have been chanting, fire Tomlin. His former players in national media, Ryan Clark and others, and even Ben Roethlisberger on his podcast, have been saying it's probably time. It's probably best for both sides. We knew they would never really fire him, even though there are some now trying to claim that it was a firing, and Schefter and the Steelers are covering that. They were never going to let that be the case. The Steelers release here, the Steelers statement from the Rooney family. I'll read for you in a moment. You probably already have seen it. From Art Rooney II, he said that Tomlin informed them they weren't going to have it any other way. He is a legend of the franchise, and he's going to be in the Hall of Fame someday, even if maybe you don't like that or want to avoid that being a reality. Maybe we'll get into that here in a moment as well. But again, Mike Osta here, mic drop, a live reaction to Mike Tomlin stepping down as Steelers head coach. The Steelers will search for a new head coach for the first time since 2007. We will have a new era in Pittsburgh for the first time in a long freaking time. And that throws a monkey wrench into this NFL offseason, to say the very least. You can find every episode of Mic Drop available wherever you get your podcasts, also made possible by the Believe Network and available through Believe on Sirius XM. Breathe a sigh of relief, I guess, if you wanted this to happen, but even breathe a sigh of relief if you want to appreciate the legacy of Mike Tomlin as well. And I do think both are warranted, both are talking points, both are legit on this day. And Mike Tomlin's legacy is going to be this. And any of you here who want to join in and want to chat along, feel free. This, of course, being streamed live. But if it's just me ranting, that's fine. We'll see what I go to. Sometimes the comments go off the rails and I don't put you on the show or respond to you. But nonetheless, this will be available in podcast form, of course, again, everywhere you get your pods, Apple, Spotify, TuneIn, Google Play, etc., and on the Believe Mic Drop main page. But Mike Tomlin's legacy is going to be this. And there's really no debating this as much as there's a lot to debate when it comes to Mike Tomlin. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's going to get there, whether you like it or not. Look at who's already in as far as coaches. Look at who's likely going to be in the future. Look at his impact. Look at the overall resume. He's going to get in. Look at the overall wins. Look at, and it's annoying, I get it. Look at the fact that he's never had a losing season. That's a record that is probably never going to be topped. Never going to be topped, because no coach is going to be around long enough unless they're building an incredible dynasty. And even then, it's unlikely. It's just never going to be topped. There are legendary coaches who've had losing seasons. Mike Tomlin is not one of them. Mike Tomlin never had a losing season. That's going to be, on the bus. That's part of it. Mike Tomlin led the team to the postseason 13 times in 19 years. That is an incredible high percentage. And that is not just the Ben Roethlisberger era. He took teams after Ben to the postseason, including this one with a 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers, who was a shell of his former self, even though he was better than what they've had in recent years. That's not really saying much. The defense dissipated, which again is on Tomlin, but they did get in the postseason. Maybe John Harbaugh got fired instead of being allowed to step down like Tomlin was, and the headline's different because Tomlin got in. It's a field goal miss or a field goal make, but that's the league, and Tomlin got in, and Harbaugh did not. So Tomlin, the win total, the no losing seasons, the 13 postseason appearances, the division titles, the fact that he did lead them to 2 Super Bowl appearances, even though, yes, early in his tenure, and we get it's an overall losing record in his playoff career, a lot of losses in recent memory. I wrote about this actually on Yardbarker, detailing really the last decade and how historically bad it's been and how overall percentage-wise you could argue Tomlin is one of the worst coaches in playoff history, not overall, but playoff history. The win percentage, the 7 straight playoff losses, the 5 straight blowout playoff losses, all tied or new NFL records for just mediocrity or below. And he did lead the Steelers to their 6th Lombardi trophy. You could argue it's from Cowher's players, but that happened a lot throughout the league history. I mean, we've seen that repeatedly. It's not just Tomlin who maybe has that unique factor. And while Cowher did win a championship, the year after that, they weren't a playoff team. So it's not like he was immediately taking over for the Super Bowl 40 team. There was a dip in the middle there. And then Tomlin comes in, and yes, they win a championship. Yes, it was a loaded defense, but he also coached them up. He gets credit for it, whether you like it or not. And if you look at Mike Tomlin's resume, with everything I just said and that you can look it up to, look at Bill Cowher being in. Look at Tony Dungy, who was a mentor of Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin also was an assistant on a championship team with the 2002 Buccaneers under John Gruden, who won a ring with Tony Dungy's players, but Gruden's ring counts the same as well. Tony Dungy in with 1 ring and fewer wins and fewer winning seasons and fewer playoff appearances and failing to get there with Tampa Bay. Bill Cowher in two appearances in the Super Bowl, the 1 title at the end. He needed a Hall of Fame quarterback who was ascending to be a Hall of Fame quarterback in Big Ben, who came aboard to get that done for Bill Cowher as well. He had a lot of AFC Championship game defeats, a lot of rough playoff losses. He had years where they didn't make it. Again, Mike Tomlin had 13. He had more years to get in and didn't have a losing season. Tomlin has that, and Bill Cowher had some losing seasons. Chuck Noll, obviously a legend with the 4 rings in the dynasty of the 70s, but he had 80s that were rough, only a couple playoff appearances, the early 90s that were rough before he ended things. It's not like it was sweet all the way through. But you look at Jimmy Johnson, that's a smaller sample size, even though he has the 2 titles. You look at Marty Schottenheimer, who actually has the worst win percentage for a head coach with 10 or more games coached, below 300. He's well over Tomlin. Marty Schottenheimer without a championship, a mentor of Bill Cowher, no championship, no Super Bowl appearance, didn't even get in there and lose. He's in the Hall of Fame. You look at who's in, and Harbaugh probably is going to get in too for any Ravens fans tuning in that say, well, what about, Harbaugh is going to get in too probably when you look at the winning season, the division titles. He won more recently in the playoffs than Tomlin. 1 ring, but only the 1 appearance, but still. And he did it with 2 different quarterbacks, and Flacco, who likely not a Hall of Famer for sure, and Lamar Jackson, who's probably headed there. Whereas in terms of star quarterbacks, Tomlin only really building up Ben and taking over Ben from Cowher, and then you could argue Rodgers, but it's just the end with 1 season. Rodgers, not really one that Tomlin can claim. But when you look at the coaches that are already in Canton and who's likely going to be in Canton, I mean, as we stand right now, Sean Payton, maybe he'll do it again with Denver and have 1 ring in 2 conferences with 2 different franchises. That'll be historic. But until then, he has the 1 title, the 1 appearance with New Orleans. It was years and years ago. He underachieved at other times. He lost in big games at other times. He won some regular season games at other times. When Drew Brees retired, it was rough for him until now with Denver. He's going to be in. When when you look at who's going to get in, who's already in, and you look at the landscape, even what Tomlin's done as an African American head coach, which is part of that, like it or not, and then even what he's done as part of the competition committee, greatest African American coach of all time. I don't want to just pigeonhole him into that. Obviously, he's a Hall of Famer regardless of his skin color, but that's a thing. His resume exceeds Tony Dungy, for example. So Mike Tomlin's going to be a Hall of Famer. Any deserving one, and maybe he'll coach elsewhere and have an Andy Reid-like run. The Eagles tell him, I think we're done. He built a dynasty with the Chiefs. The Eagles win their 2 rings. They didn't get one with him. Hadn't had one in franchise history, actually, before the 2 recent. And that's going to be fine for Andy Reid and the Eagles. The Eagles keep on. Andy Reid's a legend. He's now on the Mount Rushmore. He maybe wasn't there despite being a great coach with Philadelphia. Maybe it'll be that result. The Steelers will continue on. Maybe eventually they'll get better. Maybe it'll take a minute or so. It likely will. You might have to have a bad year, but maybe that's better. That might even be better. That's probably better. That's what people kind of have been wanting. It's better than the 21st pick every year. A higher draft pick will make it easier for you. It's not the only way. There are teams that have had late round quarterbacks, late round draft picks and had it work, but it's easier. It's how the league's set up, for crying out loud. They haven't been able to take advantage of because Tomlin never provides you a product that's bad enough to make it easier on you. There's even an NFL Films clip that's notorious with Tomlin when he was talking to a former number 1 draft pick after a game and just joking with them and said, I would love to have you, but I never wanted to be bad enough to be able to draft you. That's the Tomlin tenure, certainly the last decade. But look at the Patriots. They're 2 coaches now removed from Bill Belichick, arguably the greatest coach of all time. Built up that franchise from mediocre forever to 6 Lombardi trophies. And yeah, Brady won one without him, but Brady wasn't elite those first few, so you got to give Belichick the credit where it's due. Those original Patriots teams, those first 3, they weren't nearly as elite as maybe the latter ones. And a great mind, great legacy. They didn't let him get the wins record. They kind of told him to get out of town. This is a better press release from the Steelers for Mike Tomlin. Belichick was kind of even lied to a little bit here and has made it clear he didn't really like the way that was handled. Gerard Mayo gets a year. Say what you want about that. And now Mike Vrabel and the Patriots are clicking and they're a game away from the AFC Championship game again with Drake May, who looks like now an MVP candidate every year. I would vote for Matt Stafford, but he certainly would be a deserving winner if Drake May would win, and they're going to be fine for years to come. But they had to have a real bad year to get to this, and they've been able to do this, not too far removed from ending a tenure of a legendary head coach. So it can be done, but maybe that'll be the future of Mike Tomlin and the Steelers. It might take a year. The Steelers will be fine. I'm sure they will. It's going to be an incredibly attractive job, and that is saying the least for sure. And Mike Tomlin will be an incredibly attractive candidate. And that is saying the least for sure when you look at the resume and that he does get a lot out of his players and he does win. But the time has come. The time really came a couple years ago, but the time has certainly come now. So it's fine. Everyone's handling it fine. Well, fans aren't, but the franchise and Tomlin, everyone will likely be fine. Whether Tomlin will go to TV or coach again, we'll see. But Tomlin's going to get a job in 5 minutes, as they always said, if he wants another head coaching position. I am sure of it. Maybe he'll pick his spots. He's not going to go just anywhere. I know some franchises. I even was told directly when I was covering a game in Carolina a couple of years ago that the owner of the Panthers would move heaven and earth for Tomlin. And of course, they made the playoffs, but that's just one example. There might be teams that are good right now that fire their coach for Tomlin to get him over the hump. And maybe Tomlin builds his legacy and wins more titles and has a better second career with another franchise like Andy Reid. Maybe the Steelers do too. Then you put him in the Ring of Honor later and everything's wonderful. But right now, this had to happen. Even if it means a really, really bad year next year and you miss the playoffs, this had to happen. Again, Mike Ostie here, Mic Drop with Believe, available everywhere you get your podcast and on SiriusXM. And if you're just tuning in, I'm sure you already know because of the headline, and I'm sure you already know anyway, because you're not living under a rock. If you're online and you follow Pittsburgh sports, the Steelers, or me, you're going to know that Mike Tomlin has stepped down as Steelers head coach. Now, I said I would read the statement earlier. I'll do that. You probably already read it at this point, but I think it kind of hammers home what I've been saying as well. And this is how we always knew the Rooney family was going to handle things. And I can't in any way say it's not the right thing. It is the right way to handle it. During our meeting today, Coach Tomlin informed me that he has made the decision to step down as our head coach. So, right there, first sentence or two, they want to make it clear this is Tomlin stepping down. Again, we can debate what report is legit or not. This likely was going to happen regardless, but this is how we're here. This is how the release was going to look. This is what the Steelers were going to put out. This is the headline. They were never going to let it be a headline of Steelers fire a head coach. Remember, they didn't fire Cower. They didn't fire Chuck Noll. Of course, they wouldn't. Of course, their legacies. Steelers haven't fired a head coach in 1969. We're talking. It continues. Obviously, I am extremely grateful for Mike for all the hard work, dedication, and success we have shared over the last 19 years. And that again is true. The last several years, not so much, but still they're getting in and they're not having a 2-win season like some other coaches at the end. And, you got to be appreciative if you are the ownership. This is always how they were going to handle things here. It is hard for me to put into words the level of respect and admiration I have for Coach Tomlin. He guided the franchise to our 6th Super Bowl championship. Yeah, it's years ago, but it still counts. He made the playoffs 13 times during his tenure, including winning the AFC North 8 times, including this year, so 8 division titles. In his career, his track record of never having a losing season. This is where it gets annoying for you, but it's still part of it. It will never be broken. In 19 years, will likely never be duplicated. My family and I and everyone connected to the Steelers management are forever grateful for the passion and dedication Mike Tomlin has devoted to Steelers football. And that is the way they were going to handle it all the time. That is the way they handled it. That is the right way to handle it. Again, Mike Osta here, Mike Drop with Believe and on Sirius XM. Mike Tomlin steps down. The Steelers handle it the right way. And I also want to say and get this out because we can talk all day and we'll talk all off season and we'll talk until another announcement and maybe even talk after that on the future of the Steelers franchise with the draft in Pittsburgh this year. So you have a new era in Pittsburgh, obviously a new head coach, likely a new starting quarterback. I think it's fair to say Aaron Rodgers is tied to Mike Tomlin. The Steelers liked him. Maybe they would have welcomed him back with Tomlin, but he's not going to want to do another coach. So that'll be the end of Aaron Rodgers' career. He proved a point a little bit. He still had something left in the tank this year, despite not winning a playoff game. That'll be it for him. He'll definitely go down as a legendary QB. And ironically, Tomlin's last starting quarterback is the quarterback to beat him in his Super Bowl loss and his last Super Bowl appearance, if you want to connect the dots to a weird sense of irony here. But they will also have the draft in Pittsburgh and maybe taking a quarterback, maybe drafting up for a quarterback. Not really a deep class. They're certainly not going to get Mendoza at 21, but the last time they missed on a guy around the same spot at 20 was Kenny Pickett, and it didn't work out. And that's how we are here with Tomlin. You can't swing and miss at that draft pick, and it's hard to get a quarterback, a legit one, at that spot unless you do trade up. So I will add here, and again, your thoughts are welcome, what you want or think the Steelers are going to do in the draft if this changes anything for you. If Aaron Rodgers is not coming back, I cannot imagine he is. We haven't had his announcement, but as I'm recording this, it could happen any moment. I cannot. He's tied to Tomlin. There's just no absolute way. And this could mean that you bring in another veteran. This could all because the Steelers management is still in charge here. This could also mean that you're drafting a guy and he maybe plays and you're just going to be a train wreck next year. I mean, again, that might be best for the future of the franchise. Maybe that's the reality you're living in. And, getting in the playoffs is better than not getting in, even though some of you maybe would have preferred not to get in if you just keep seeing first-round playoff exits, especially in blowout fashion. And again, I wrote about that on Yard Barker to really paint the full picture, which is how we got to Tomlin stepping down and the right decision for everyone. But does this change the draft? Because what I've been hearing is there's a higher likelihood that people are kind of dismissing that they could really trade up to get that QB. People talking about that 21st spot, as I did, but they could trade up. And it's uncharacteristic, but they've done some uncharacteristic things in the draft and in the offseason in recent years. Omar Khan is there. This is not Kevin Colbert. This could happen. And it might not even be smart, depending on how much you think of this draft class. They got to come out with some QB, you would imagine, especially with the new head coach and it being in Pittsburgh, or else the crowd will freaking boo the pick probably. But you also don't want to take a guy that you just hate just because you want to take a guy. Like, you don't want to just take any old quarterback to take somebody. And, I know some fans love Will Howard. He's there. He won a national title at Ohio State. He's been, a power quarterback in power conferences, Big Ten, and even Big 12 before. Has that experience. He played in a stacked team at Ohio State. Just watch the film from Kansas State. Team's not as stacked. They're not a national champ. A little different ball game. He could be okay. I don't know why some fans love him and think he's the next coming of Big Ben so much before he even threw a ball. I wouldn't bet on him being the future of the franchise and being the next guy that lead them to the promised land. We will see who comes aboard, if he's still on the roster, if he's there, if he gets a chance, if there's a competition in camp, if they bring in another veteran, if Mason Rudolph comes back again, thinking now is the time he can start. Even if they draft somebody, it's unlikely the rookie plays right away if they care about winning at all. And it's not a franchise that punts years, which has been the problem, kind of. So you would imagine with Rooney still there, of course, that they're still going to try and get the best guy in, and we'll see the system. We'll see the futures of the rest of the staff or the Smith and Company. You imagine when you have a coach step down, when you make a coaching transition, you're looking at a whole new staff, a whole new everything, a whole new culture, a whole new mentality. We're going to hear, new comments in a press conference. That'll even be fun. It'll just be something new. And I told a colleague recently that has, a team of his, he's actually a Browns fan. I'll reveal. Obviously, Savansky now fired, and Savansky won a playoff game and 2 coach of the years, but that's the best they've had in 20 plus years. He always would drop it could be much worse, Mike. Like, it could be much, much worse. Yeah, it might get stale, but it could be much worse. I get all that, but it just was stale. It just was flat out stale. You just want something new. You just want to hear new terminology, new verbiage, and a presser. It just was stale. You just want something new. I think Steelers fans want something new, even if that means a 5 or 6 win season next year. That would be okay for something new rather than just 10 wins every year and knowing the result going into those playoff games. But we will see how the draft looks. That's going to be a conversation all off season, no matter when the coach is announced. That's a conversation. And also what I want to get out here, you have to remember this is the Pittsburgh Steelers. And while we all want the Steeler way to be changed, and maybe it will now with a new head coach, in a way, the Steelers do let the coaches run the ship. So a new coach will bring his culture in, but it's still the Pittsburgh Steelers. And what I mean by that is the first order of business on everyone's mind after finishing up the debates on Mike Tomlin's legacy is who will be the new head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Some attractive candidates certainly available in this market. They are a franchise with the cachet to certainly take somebody else's coach, certainly take someone else's coordinator, certainly rock the boat around the league. It's an attractive job. People would jump to it. Certainly somebody who's not a head coach, that's a coordinator somewhere else, that's probably not getting interviewed right now, would be interested. Maybe the Steelers would be interested in them. And that's all fun. It'll be fun to talk about, fun to speculate on. But this is the Pittsburgh Steelers. When Bill Cowher retired, and yeah, people thought Russ Krim would be the guy. He would just be ascending. Even Ken Wisnott, and he would eventually go to Arizona and lead them to a Super Bowl. Russ Krim still in his feelings really about not getting the job, and there's even people that believe that he was offered it, and then that was pulled away. And Tomlin's interview blew him out of the room, and Tomlin got the job. And Tomlin even talked about that on Ryan Clark's The Pivot about how he kind of was an afterthought. He thought it was going to someone else. He takes an interview. He doesn't really believe he has a shot. He's a defensive coach. Yes, he went to ring with Tampa, coming off DC with Minnesota, but only 1 year. Kind of an unknown, really, really young. Nobody in Pittsburgh thought it would be Mike Tomlin. Most casual fans didn't even know who Mike Tomlin was. And he gets the job. Dominates the interview, blows him away, gets the job, and wins right away. So right away, people shut up. And yeah, there were some that still, I can't put my finger on it, but I know there's something I don't like about Tomlin. We kind of know what you were alluding to, guys. People saying that, especially in the championship year, we kind of know what you were alluding to. Yeah, it's time. It's fair. The criticism has been fair. He hasn't won enough the last decade. Playoff losses suck, and they're unacceptable. They're not the standard. But we know what you were putting your finger on early in his tenure if you didn't like that tenure of Tomlin's reign as head coach. Because there's nothing really to be mad about there unless you just wanted him to be Belichick, and nobody but Belichick was having more success at that time. But that's probably what we're looking at again. Now, again, it's a new GM. The Rooney family is going to be involved. They want to make sure the right guy fits the culture, has the character, all of that. And that's what they loved about Mike Tomlin. They felt he did. They also know there's going to be a lot of pressure that even though it'll take a year or two maybe to take a step back, that, the consecutive streak of losing playoff games and 10-7, it's not really what the fans want anymore. And yeah, they would take a 4-win season to get beyond that, but it can't be a 5-year journey in Pittsburgh or the fans will check out. And the next guy may not get the rope that Tomlin got, may not get the rope that Cowher or Chuck Noll got. They've only had 3 coaches, for crying out loud, in over 50 years. We'll see if that streak continues and if the next coach wins a championship, because that's what's happened since Chuck Noll came aboard. But they're probably going to hire the next Mike Tomlin in all reality. I mean, you can name some guys. It doesn't have to be a complete unknown like Tomlin kind of was, and he did have some things on his resume before. It wasn't like he wasn't coaching. I already read them off to you. But it'll be an assistant, likely. Maybe a coordinator. Might not even be a coordinator experience. It won't be, obviously, John Harbaugh. That'll just be weird. It's not going to be a Harbaugh. It likely will not be a head coach with a championship on his resume already, who's already been to the big game, who's already been there and done it before, who's 50 plus years old. I don't feel it's going to be any of those guys. I mean, the Broncos hire Sean Payton with a ring on his finger and an older coach. Great for them. The Steelers are not going to do that, even though, yes, it's got Denver back to where they want to be pretty quickly. There are some franchises that just want a quick fix. They're willing to hire older coaches who've won and do it, even if it's a short-term remedy, and then you're hiring a new coach in 5 or 6 years. They don't want to do that, clearly. They don't fire coaches. They haven't done so, and again, since 1969, and they have had 3 coaches since. They've all won championships, and they're all going to be in the Hall of Fame together. Cowher already in, Chuck Noll already in. Tomlin will join them, as I discussed at the top of the show, whether you like it or not. He'll be there. So it's going to be that type of coach. It's going to be that assistant. It's going to be that coordinator. It's going to be that diamond in the rough that they feel will do it, needs the opportunity to really ascend. They may not be a minority. They're not. I wouldn't imagine that's the important thing. Tomlin was, but Cowher, no, certainly are not. It's just going to be the right coach who's younger, who's hungry, who fits the culture, and then we'll see whether it's an offensive or defensive-minded coach. Tomlin defensive-minded. The Steelers have hired defensive-minded coaches throughout the history, of course. But in this day and age in the NFL, unlike in 92, unlike in 2007, unlike in 1970, you got to be able to score points with the best of them. The biggest problem for the Steelers, in addition to the offense not being near what it was years ago and not near what the national media believes it to be, and Jason Kelsey during the Monday Night Football broadcast saying, oh, this vaunted Steelers defense, I can't imagine a team's rushing on them. I don't know what he's been watching all year. Don't know how many Steeler games he's been watching. That comment maybe would have made sense in 2020. Maybe the last time. And they've had good defensive seasons since, but come on. Everyone and their brother has been gashing the Steelers defensively on the ground for years, and certainly the tip of the iceberg was this year. Look at Derrick Henry. Look at the playoff game back-to-back weeks at minimum to end the year, just getting gashed. That defensive line older and not nearly getting it done. Secondary a problem too. That's been up and down in recent years. But the offense, even more so than the defense, just cannot be anemic and expect to contend. And yes, they're a playoff team, but they're not near more than that. And yes, they took advantage of a weak division. And I have a whole rant on I would prefer reseeding, and you win a weak division, you get in, but that's it. You don't even get a home playoff game. The Steelers wouldn't even have been in Pittsburgh when they lost to Houston. Houston had a way better year, a way better team. They deserve that home game for their fans and their money way more than Pittsburgh. But I'll leave the rest of that for another day. But the offense has just been so bad. And before this, you were there in Rodgers. Yeah, the quarterback wasn't enough. I mean, the Kenny Pickett, the Mitch Trubisky, the Mason Rudolphs of the world. You bring in Justin Fields. You bring in Russell Wilson at the end of his career when he's no longer legit. Those guys weren't going to get it done. The end of Ben isn't even good enough. He was a shell of his former self. Those last couple of years of Ben was him hanging around too long, probably. Mason Rudolph, Duck Hodges, and that 2019 year. That's part of Tomlin overachieving a little bit at times in his career. He's overachieved and underachieved. He underachieved with the Triple Bs, not getting a ring out of them, and then maybe losing some playoff games they shouldn't lose. He also overachieved, getting the 2019 team to almost the postseason. And if you talk about this format with 7 teams getting in, that was still 6 teams getting in. They would have got in with Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges. Mason Rudolph with no experience, and Duck Hodges with we've basically out of the NFL soon after. That's Tomlin's story, and it always will be. But the offense has not been enough. I mean, the offense hasn't been good. This is an offensive era. Look at the stats for everybody. You're going to have a Hall of Fame with everyone because of these numbers, and the Steelers can't benefit at all. And yeah, Aaron Rodgers is better than anything the Steelers have had in recent years, but he's still 41-42 then at the end. Just not nearly enough. You need wide receiver depth. You need a dynamic quarterback who's not a billion years old or not just, handicapped ability wise like the other ones that were Aaron Rodgers' predecessor. No. You need a running game that's consistent. They had that kind of with Najee Harris for sure. He had consistent 1,000-yard seasons, but they certainly didn't have it this past year. And it was rare to get a second contract out of a first round running back. So Najee Harris did leave, but you maybe wouldn't have kept him no matter who was the coach. You don't use Freiermuth enough. Johnny Smith had a horrendous year, and I thought he would be really good, and two tight ends would be great for the offense with Arthur Smith. I thought he'd fit in and be great and be the reason why they won that trade with Minka for Ramsey. But no, he wasn't good. They need a change on offense. I mean, back in the day, the offense was clicking and people hated Todd Haley, my boy from Steel City Sunday and a show that I had here, an appearance on Mike Drop on Sirius XM. He has his own program on Sirius as well. I like Todd Haley. I got to know him a little bit this past year doing Steel City Sunday with him and a part of a pretty lit group chat, by the way. But I think he gets too much hate in Pittsburgh. Certainly at the time, he got the blame for that Jacksonville playoff loss when the offense scored points, the defense collapsed. That was kind of the beginning of the change of the Steelers defense. Whereas that first Tomlin decade, the Steelers defense was historically great, which is why they were so good. And then, yeah, they were good at other times, but never back to that level. And Todd Haley was the man to go first. He was the scapegoat first. He was hated first. Steelers fans always hate the offensive coordinator. And yeah, Matt Canada was awful and maybe deserves some criticism for sure. And say what you want about Arthur Smith, but the rosters haven't been good enough. The roster certainly wasn't good enough this year offensively, and certainly not in prior seasons on the quarterback on the quarterback side of things. And that's no matter who the OC is, that's the most important of all. That all needs fixed. That all needs change. So do you go with an offensive guru instead of a defensive minded head coach like the franchise has always done? Having an offensive guru in will help you mature a quarterback, help you get a quarterback, help you make those decisions, help you get the most out of those playmakers and call up better freaking plays. We will see what they do. I think an offensive minded coach would make more sense. I know they're still going to go youth. I think a young offensive minded coach would be better and make more sense. But if I had to bet, it'll be a young coach, but probably still a defensive minded guy. That's just what the Steelers do. That's just the Steelers way. I actually do want to check in here while I'm still on the air. I just got an email. We always get those in media, just random emails from betting companies and just sent out and spam to all of us. But, now the odds to be the next Steelers head coach. Chris Shula, Rams DC, plus 550, plus 600 for Brian Flores. Obviously, coached under Tomlin with the Steelers. They did let him go. He needed to do more in his career than just be a random defensive assistant. They didn't even make him DC. He's the Vikings DC. Great last year, not so much this year. Plus 600. He would be the opposite of kind of the modern coach I'm saying, where you would rather have an offensive guru if you can get that guy, like a Ben Johnson with the Bears, turning them around right away because everyone elevates offensively with him. But if you're going to go defensive coach and you kind of want a defensive coach, Brian Flores would make tons of sense. He would fit in with the culture. He's actually been a head coach before, even though that wouldn't be Tomlin exactly, but he's been a head coach before. He had a better run with Miami than people think, but he kind of got ousted unfairly. Solid DC, and then we'll see as a head coach. I think he deserves one more shot as being a head coach. He really would fit in culture-wise, at least. Mike McCarthy, obviously from Pittsburgh, has a championship, former Packers and Cowboys head coach. He'll be back again coaching probably. I don't see the Steelers thing happening. That's the exact opposite of what they do. And if that is the case, that's a short-term solution. I highly doubt it, though. I still think younger coach, assistant coordinator, someone you don't know who doesn't have a ring, not the Mike McCarthy, even though the homecoming story would be nice to talk and write about briefly. Kevin Stefanski, it'd be interesting from the Browns to the Steelers. I think he's an underrated head coach, plus 900. I mean, I don't know if that'll happen. I don't think that'll happen. That just feels weird, and other jobs are going to call him too. I don't even know if he would see the Steelers as attractive comparison to others. It'll be a very attractive job, of course, but there are other rosters that are better right now. There are other teams that maybe have that quarterback. The Steelers do not. Granted, going in the draft, but not great spot right now at 21. And Stefanski has been coach of the year twice. He has won a playoff game over the Steelers. More playoff wins than freaking Tomlin and Pittsburgh have during that same time span. He's the most successful Browns coach released since Marty Schottenheimer, as insane as that sounds, certainly of this century. And he would be very similar. He'd be that similar type of coach. He's certainly better on offense. You would figure in it. The Browns quarterbacks and offensive game plans haven't been great. They've had 13 quarterbacks under him. It's really been a carousel since Baker Mayfield, which was maybe more of a franchise mess up than just on Savansky. I think he's a solid coach. I think his resume is better than what Browns fans gave him credit for. The roster wasn't nearly good enough this year. What the hell could you expect? I don't know if I buy Shador Sanders as the future. He's out there. He's plus 900. Jesse Minter, Chargers, DC, plus 1,000. Or no, I'm sorry, plus 1,500. Clint Kubiak, Seahawks, OC. This is where you're getting offensive coaches here. Plus 2,000. Mike LaFleur, former Packers. Or Mike LaFleur, Rams OC. At plus 2,000. Robert Saleh, Jets head coach, had the Rodgers experience. Now 49ers DC totally repairing his image at plus 2,500. Brian Daboll, that would be insane. Obviously a rough tenure there with the Giants at plus 2,500 and the field at plus 475. We'll see. And Mike LaFleur, Rams OC is who I was referring to there. Matt LaFleur is Green Bay's head coach that technically is still their head coach. But the way things are working there, maybe they trade him, maybe something gets worked out. They want a new deal, but it shouldn't be that hard to figure it out. It hasn't happened yet to what I've read. Kind of a same deal. I know a lot of Packer fans that are kind of sick of his tenure too. Didn't get nearly 19 years, but it's been playoff failures as well. Now with Jordan Love there, previously Aaron Rodgers. So I just had to give a reaction here. I'm not going to rant too much longer. Again, this will be available everywhere you get your podcast and on podcast form. But pardon me for the video listeners there. Not 100%, by the way. Got to check the pineapple juice a little bit more to bring the vocal cords back, but maybe that's a cue to close up shop here. Just had to rant, just had to get my thoughts out. It's easier than penning some tweets, which I did do. And some stories. I already got one up on Yard Barker on how historic Tomlin's recent playoff loss actually is in NFL history. But simply put, Mike Tomlin steps down. It's always surprising. I was going to believe it when I saw it, but this year was more on the board than ever before. People were talking about it. It was never going to be a firing. It was freaking time. It's been overdue. It's been time. We'll see who they hire. It's going to be kind of a Tomlin-like hire. It's going to be an assistant coach. It's going to be a younger coach, likely defensive-minded. I'd prefer offensive-minded, but we will see. If Tomlin wants another head coaching job, he'll get one. If he wants to go TV, he'll get one. I think he'll do actually a good job on TV, even though some do not think he'll do well there. And whether you like it or not, he's a Hall of Famer. So Tomlin's legacy will always be complicated. He'll always be overappreciated by some who just defend him to no end and have been so the last several years. He'll be underappreciated to many who don't appreciate the early tenure because of the end, who don't look at the overall picture, who don't respect him as a future Hall of Famer when he is going to be there, and who slander the whole resume because of the end. But the end, certainly the last 7 playoff losses, and certainly the last several years, and certainly even the last decade, have warranted this being the situation. Should have been years ago. No other franchise would have let him linger on this long. And in this age of pro sports culture, legendary coaches with better resumes get fired. They don't even get to step down. Joe Torre was fired by the Yankees. Andy Reid was told to get out of town in Philadelphia. John Harbaugh, fired by the Ravens. They don't say he made a decision. They say we made it for him. We told him. Harbaugh even said he wasn't ready. It happens. It's fine. It's fine. Legendary coaches have been fired. Name me a legendary coach who wasn't fired at some point. Wasn't dismissed somewhere from some position at some point. Tomlin will be fine. He wasn't fired officially, but he'll be fine. He'll get another job if he wants it. He'll coach again if he wants it. We'll do shows on where maybe he should be and what the Steelers should freaking do moving on now. But a new area in Pittsburgh with the NFL draft coming up, going to be a wild offseason, the end of winter, a wild spring coming up, a full-on new era of Steelers football. Got to imagine a new starting quarterback. This means the end of Aaron Rodgers as well. But simply put, Tomlin's legacy is complicated. It'll forever be complicated. He'll be in Canton someday. He's a legit Hall of Famer. You cannot deny it. But it was time. It's been time. It was long overdue. And this is the best call of action, the best plan moving forward, the best way of the future for the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Tomlin is to now part ways, to go on separately, to part ways amicably, as they do in a way, and induct the marriage into the Hall of Fame if you want, but live on, maybe co-parent, but be divorced. This is the best. This had to happen. Tomlin and the Steelers had to part ways. They do. That'll do it for this edition of Mike Drop, this solo kind of rant edition, reacting to Mike Tomlin stepping down as Pittsburgh Steelers head coach, future Hall of Famer, but now former head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. It was freaking time. That is the theme here. Keep hammering that into your brain if you're not too thrilled about the news. But I think for the most part, everybody knows it was time. Again, Mic Drop here on Believe and SiriusXM, and also available everywhere you get your podcasts, and find me on social media at Mike Osti 11.